Are you looking for a unique and elegant way to decorate your dining room or living room? Well, look no further, because in today's video I'm going to show you how to make an elegant crescent-shaped design with a candle centerpiece to wow your friends and family. If you want to add a touch of sophistication, then this is the tutorial for you. To today's tutorial. Now, you might have seen me use this container before. I've done so many videos now I can't remember whether I've produced any type of arrangement in it before, but what I like about this is that the container is flat to sit on your dining room table, and if you're making it for a table centre, it gives plenty of room across the middle for you to be able to see your guests on the opposite side. You'll see that I've already attached some floral foam, and I've just used some Oasis tape over the top to hold it in position, and I'm going to follow the shape, that natural shape of the container, and make a crescent-shaped design. Now, you might be aware, if you watch lots of my tutorials, I am a great lover of the crescent-shaped arrangement, but because I'm going to place a candle here in the centre, it's really going to emphasise that romantic and elegant style of this particular arrangement. Today's colour combination is quite autumnal in its appearance, although I am filming in the spring. I've got a beautiful selection of browns, coppers, some apricot and peach colours, and I really thought it was going to complement the colour of my candle. What I've done at the base of my candle is I've glued a floral frog there onto the base. You'll see I've used hot glue and I've placed that into the centre. And there are many different ways that you can attach your candle to your container, and that's my preferred choice for today. And that's going to sit really nicely there on the top of my foam in the centre to create the start of my centrepiece. And then what I'm going to do is work my flowers up either side to create that really interesting crescent shape. Now, if this was going against a wall, this would be fantastic for an altar in your local church. You could sit it on the table as you enter any place of worship, and it would even look fabulous in the windows. I'm going to go fairly symmetrical, so the design is going to be even on both sides, but it looks amazing when you go slightly taller on one side and a little shorter on the other. And of course, you can adopt this style to any time of the year and use any type of combination of flowers. So enough talking for today, let's get started in creating the design. You might see a few of the flowers just off to my side here. Now, I'm going to start with some garden foliage, and if you haven't got access to any greenery, then you can do this design quite successfully with just flowers. You maybe just need to have a bigger proportion of flowers. If you're a commercial florist, then you could replace it with eucalyptus, ruscus, any soft foliage that's going to give you a bit of a curve. Rosemary from the garden is also amazing because that will curve beautiful in the arrangement to really help you emphasize that crescent shape. So if we think of a circle or a moon, anything that's round, what I'm going to do is just create a semicircle arrangement that would be half of a circle, so like a half moon in its style. And I'm going to start by creating my outline shape. This foliage is quince, and this one has come from my garden, but what I loved about this is it really picks up on all the different colours of the flower combinations that we're going to look at later. And one of the advantages of having this boat-shaped container is that you can follow the line, the natural line that that container creates, to give you the start of your crescent shape. Now, what you do need to be a little bit mindful of if you're using the quince, and if you're not familiar with quince, it's a little fruit very much like a crab apple that's often used to make jams and chutneys and things with, but it does have a little bit of a vicious spike on it, so be mindful when you're working with it to remove any of those very sharp thorns. As I'm creating this arrangement for a table centre, then it needs to be fairly similar from front to back. If you were doing this to sit on the altar at your place of worship, then you could really concentrate on making it front facing and keep all your flower choice to the front. But I'm going to work quite hard today in getting that shape where we have something of interest from front to back. It doesn't really matter whether you're looking at the front or the back, because I'm hoping that the design will be fairly similar when it's finished. What I don't like about that placement is it's drawing your eye too far up towards the sky. So I'm going to take that out, cut it shorter, and I'll use it on this side here instead. It's going to work well at getting that brown, that reddish brown colour through to the centre. I don't have a huge amount of the quince foliage, but what I do love is that colour. So we'll just spread out as much of the colour as we can, bringing it right from the end and draw it into the centre where the candle is, so that the colour is fairly evenly balanced out. And it's important to get that three-dimensional effect. If we look at it here from the side, you can see I've brought some material out there to strengthen the width of my arrangement and to get my eye to travel all the way through the middle. I'm not going to come up too tall in the centre, then I'm placing the design at risk of catching fire once that candle is lit. But so far, that's coming together really well. I have got a bit of a contrast in texture with some rosemary. And what's great about the rosemary is that it's quite pliable. So if you just manipulate it a little bit with your hands, you will get a bit more of a curved shape. So 2 garden foliages. And you know, if you're new to this industry and you've just started flower arranging, then it really is a case of just taking a wander, seeing what you've got in the garden, what your neighbours might have, and learning how you can use its natural shape in the arrangement to its best advantage. Right, one of my favourites for just filling in little gaps is the pistache greenery. As a commercial florist, you'll see me use this a lot in everyday floral designs. And if you're a member of my Facebook group, so I have a little group on Facebook, it's aimed at anybody that enjoys flower arranging, and it's a little group for us to get together and have a chat and share designs and look for inspiration. If you're part of that group, then the flower choice that I'm using in today's arrangement is from that live video that I shared with you last week. And if you want to join that group, I'll list just on the screen below. You'll find me on Facebook. Don't send me a personal friends request. Look for Sharon's Innovations group, and you'll also get some discounts if you want to join any of my online courses. What about that for a shape? If we had foliage that curved a little bit more on the end, the circular shape would be more emphasized, but I'm quite happy with that. Maybe I should have referred to it as a boat-shaped arrangement rather than a crescent, but that's coming together really nicely. Now, to start, the colour and the flower choice right from the very end into the middle, I'm going to start with using some of the Kangaroo paw. Now, if you're down in Australia, then you will be really familiar with this flower. It's exactly like I imagine a kangaroo paw to be like. It's a gorgeous texture. It's very tactile, and it's long and thin enough to start on the outside edge. What you really need to avoid doing in an arrangement like this is start with the bigger, heavier flowers on the outside, because that doesn't work well with your visual proportions. The heavier flowers, the more weighty flowers, in my case it's going to be an open rose, needs to be brought near the body or the main focus, the centre part there of the arrangement. And that today is where my candle is. If you're not familiar with lots of these different words that I use when I'm describing the videos, I usually refer to the elements and principles of design, and they're like our guidelines. They're the sort of rules that we follow when we're making arrangements. And if you pop over to my Etsy store, and again I'll link it in the description box there, if you pop over to the Etsy store, you'll find a digital download that you can use as a bit of a reference guide, particularly if you're attending flower arranging classes. It will help you understand all the different words that I use during the construction of an arrangement. So we've started with the longer pieces of the kangaroo paw, and then the shorter pieces are brought right the way down into the centre where my candle is. That's hopefully going to give me an even balance, a visual balance of all the colours coming in to the centre. And if that's all the flowers that you had, you could quite easily leave the design as it is there. but we have just one type of flower in here, which tends to make the design a bit untidy and a bit messy. So by adding in a more structured material, just like the Rudbeckia here, we create a more dominant flower, something that's going to give us a different shape and a different colour, so that the eye will find another interesting flower to work its way through the design. And what I'll do here is I'll stagger this particular flower shape, this Rudbeckia flower head, through the middle and all the way through to the outside. Now traditionally, the Rudbeckia is an autumn flower. It has little petals in a sort of pinky brown colour around the outside. But as commercial florists, we can buy flowers from all over the world. So traditionally an autumn flower, but the colour is just absolutely amazing. And you can see I've created this staggered line that brings your eye from one end through the centre of the arrangement and out towards the opposite side. And it almost gives like a calming influence to that very busy kangaroo paw that I placed in at the beginning. Now it's not perfectly matching on either side. I don't have a matching flower on this side and I don't have a matching flower on that side, but you still get that effect of your eye picking up each individual colour and moving through to the opposite side. So now I'm going to introduce a softer, more floatier flower, and this is the butterfly Ranunculus. Now this isn't a flower that you see very often in the supermarkets. It's probably the domain of a florist, and we use this an awful lot in wedding work when we want that very soft, floaty look. And in a couple of weeks, starting, I think it might be June the 7th, we've got an online wedding hand tie course, and those dates are up on the website now for you to book. And during the 5-week online course, I'll talk you through 5 different types of hand tie bouquet. So you'll probably get to see these really soft and delicate little flowers again. They're amazing to create that airy light bouquet that many of the brides are looking for at the moment. It's a bit of a harsh contrast in the colours because the lighter cream colour is almost opposite to the dark brown, but there is a slightly darker centre, so that's going to help pick up on the colours. And I've got a lighter colour rose, which is going to work really well in just a second. So if you didn't already know, as well as having the YouTube channel, I do also run lots of online classes, and you can join from anywhere in the world because they're available as recorded versions as well as the live lesson. Now this is just looking so lovely at the moment. That softness of the butterfly Ranunculus has really taken that arrangement to the next dimension. And if you can't get hold of a flower as unusual and as sort of exotic as this, then a spray carnation is going to work just as well. It's just a soft flower to bring the colour from one side to the other. Now my more focal flower, my more dominant flower is going to be a rose. This one is called Alchemy, and as it opens, it almost has a bi-coloured appearance to it. It's a peachy, almost pinky colour in the centre. And I'm going to use these to give me a little bit of focal weight. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. A little bit of focal weight here near the candle. It's a beautiful link with my candle. Initially, I'm just going to go in with 2 on either side of the candle, and then we'll look to see how the design is coming together. So in floral design, the focal area always has the bigger and the bolder material. If the candle wasn't there, I would put some flowers towards the center as well. But in this design, the candle is almost my focal point. Right, so the last of that colour rose for just a second. I'm going to slightly move that one because it's not sitting in a position that I particularly like. There we are, that's better. And now what I'm going to try to do is get that more peachy colour further towards the outside. And I'm going to do that by introducing a spray rose. Again, it could be a spray carnation, it could be a spray chrysanthemum, but what I've done is cut them down into individual stems. Rather than trying to get the whole head in, it's visually dominant, it's very large. Think about cutting it down and using the individual flower heads. And then we've got a much softer approach to the arrangement. It's not too heavy. It's visually a lot more pleasing. And I'm going to continue with that colour, using as many of the heads as I possibly can. And it makes that one flower stem far more economical to use. So we'll continue here, adding the last of that interesting spray rose, and just with one stem, I've managed to get that colour running from one side to the other to make that fairly traditional symmetrical design. I think at this stage I'm just going to finish now with another ranunculus. This is the more traditional ranunculus that you're used to seeing. And again, if you were on my Facebook group, you would have seen me condition these and show you how they arrived from the suppliers. And there was a lot of damage on them and the petals were dropping off them. So what I did here was I removed the damaged centre flower. I've kept them in water, and it's encouraged the buds to open. So even though the main larger flower was really looking quite sad, it hadn't travelled very well, I think it had possibly been out of water for too long, the buds have opened up really nicely and I've been able to use them in the floral design. So I'm going to do a similar method and creating that crescent shape. I'm reinforcing it with a slightly different colour, where tints, tones and shades of an orange colour. I'm using, if possible, the smaller flowers towards the outside and then the more larger dominant flowers towards the centre. So you can see how that one's opened up really nicely. That can come to the front. Now sometimes when I'm doing a video like this, I'm right on top of the floral design and you get a slightly different view from me. Sometimes when I come to photograph it and I step away from the design, I think, oh, it's not quite as balanced on that side as I thought it was. So if you stick right to the end of the tutorial, you will find a series of stills photographs and some close-ups of the individual flowers. So don't feel that after I've said goodbye, you can rush off. Stay to the end. Now you might see I've got a bit of resistance now. I can't quite get this final couple of pieces in. And that's normally a good indication that you've put enough flowers into the floral foam. I didn't want to start with a huge piece of foam because that meant I would have overcrowded the centre and the design would have become very middle heavy. But when you get to the point I am now, where there's a bit of resistance when you're trying to get your flowers into the foam, then that's normally a good time to stop. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop at this point. I think that's a really striking design. That would look fabulous in the centre of your dining table if you've got friends or family over for a meal. Don't forget to stick to the end of the video to see some close-ups. Pop over to the website and see what courses are running and join me on my Facebook group. Like and comment in the box below. It's lovely to hear what you think of each individual design and how you would tackle this particular arrangement. As ever, thanks for watching and goodbye for now.